Okay, question number 4. Does the EPA promoting cleaner air and cleaner water hurt the industries most likely to push against tougher regulations? Do you believe that the perceived savings of fewer regulations get passed on to employees and customers or assist in lining the pockets of the owners, stockholders, CEOs, etc.? Bit of a complicated question. Um, the first part of it, does the EPA promoting cleaner air and water hurt industries most likely to push against tougher regulations? In some cases it does, in some cases it doesn't. There's a fine balancing act there where, and I'm going to I relate a lot of stuff to the business I was in, paint and body shop. Okay. In the previous video, I mentioned about the EPA regulations that took effect in January of 11. They were more cost effective. They have added to my cost of operations on a monthly basis, but they did absolutely nothing to promote cleaner energy, cleaner air, cleaner water. Well, water wouldn't have been effective in my industry, but air. Everything that the regulations that was already in place promoted cleaner air. There are some instances where additional regulations for promotion of water and air quality is necessary. And yeah, they may cost a little bit more, but yes, it would be better for the environment. There is a lot of regulations right now that are wasteful, useless. Wasteful meaning they waste money and do absolutely nothing to help the environment. So, it's, any business is going to push against more regulations, especially if that regulations is going to cost them money. Anytime you add cost of operations to a company, any company, it's going to hurt that company. When you run a business, you have a certain profit margin that you have to maintain in order to stay in business. When a rule or regulation is put in place by the government that bites into that profit margin, it's going to hurt your business. And in some cases, you have no choice, but you have to raise prices. When you raise prices, it's going to hurt your sales. And this is what I learned from running a business. When my prices had to start going up, it hurts my sales. I start having fewer customers because my customer base is based off a certain price range. When I get outside of that price range, then I lose that customer base. And it can be detrimental to my ability to make a profit and be able to stay in business. See, this is what a lot of people don't understand. In businesses, you have to make a profit or you're no longer there to provide a service. Okay? Companies don't have trees out back that make money to cover the cost of your operations. So, yes, I do think that they hurt some businesses sometimes. But there's also certain regulations that are necessary. So it's that fine line juggling act that you've got to figure out how to protect the environment. And I am definitely a person that believes in protecting the environment. I grew up in the country, out on a farm. And I hate seeing the destruction of the woods. I grew up playing in the woods, and I want my kids, my grandkids. I love the idea of being out in the woods, and I like the idea of clean energy. When I build my retirement home, it's going to be off the grid as much as I could possibly do, because I like that. Back 150 years ago, that's the way everybody lived. It was cleaner, it was healthier, and I like that idea. But that doesn't mean I'm against fossil fuels and stuff either. My great grandfather was a coal miner in Kentucky back in the early 1900s, and so that's a whole industry right there. But yeah, I've seen where government regulations hurts businesses, and because of stupid regulations. And then the savings of fewer regulations, how are they passed on? Well, and I know I'm going to make some people upset about this one. What the companies do with their savings is their business. It's a private industry. It's a private company. The government has no say-so what they do with their profits. The consumer can. But we've seen already with the tax cut how a lot of companies have passed on, wage increases, bonuses to their employees. One of the biggest issues with government regulations, for example, the minimum wage issue, is when the government mandates an increase in labor cost, you have to pass that on to your customers. I can't increase the wages of my employees and keep my prices where they are right now because I'm increasing my cost of operations. So therefore I have to raise prices in order to maintain profitability in order to stay in business. If the government reduces regulations, which saves me money, I can increase the cost of my operations without increasing the cost of my product. It's a balance. I keep money from this, so now I can transfer that money to here. But personally, I don't care what a company does with their money. They're a private business. If I owned a business, it's none of the government's business what I do with my profit. So, if I put it in my pocket, that's my choice. A lot of companies will take that savings and will grow. They may not give pay raises to their employees because they want to increase the number of products. Maybe they can use it for advertising in order to increase sales. Increase sales means they have to add more employees. That's jobs. They're paying the same wages, but now they have more people. They have more money that they can hire more people to increase their productivity. Over the past 8 years, we have seen such a slowdown in production and businesses because people haven't had money to spend. That's why we still have businesses companies cutting jobs and going out of business under the first year of President Trump, because these companies have been suffering for 8 years under Obama with lack of sales, and they've reached their breaking point. And the first year of President Trump increasing things isn't going to be enough for them to salvage those jobs that they've been planning for 2 or 3 years of getting rid of because they just can't afford it. The increase in sales, the increase of people spending money and creating the environment that they can save those jobs, isn't growing fast enough yet. So they're going to have to shed jobs now, but they hopefully will be able to bring them back later as the economy grows. But I would like to see them put it more into the employees. And again, that's a customer-based thing. That's an employee-based thing. I remember back in the 90s during the big downsizing boom of the mid-90s, when companies were shedding jobs. They started adding benefits. They started increasing wages, adding benefits that companies had never offered before. Very few companies had retirement plans and medical insurance and all these other benefits until the 90s, and all of a sudden everybody started offering 401ks and dental and medical and this and that and the other. And they did it because to attract a better quality employee. And so the employees, when you applied for a job, you were asking, do you have benefits? Everybody wanted benefits with the new job. And that's when companies started adding benefits. They started increasing wages. So it's a you could call it a consumer driven idea of these companies that receive savings from reduced regulations, from tax cuts, putting it back into their employees in order to attract better employees, in order to increase productivity. But again, me personally, if the company wants to give it to the shareholders, that's why we buy stocks. Those of us, everybody in the country, now I don't own stocks, unfortunately. I've never had the money to buy them yet. But people that buy stocks buy them for a retirement plan. I got a couple friends, one just retired last year from the same company I work for, that has been investing in stocks for years. And he buys stocks that pays dividends. That's the profit. So when a regulation is reduced and a company saves money and they give it to the shareholders, those are the people that's getting that money, the people that are receiving dividends on the stock they buy. It's not always the rich folks. It's all the shareholders. And he's using that as his retirement fund. Now he's got a retirement fund as well, but it's a supplement to his retirement fund. Okay? And so, yeah, it is going back into good things. A lot of the stuff like that is degraded by the liberals, the Democrats, that want you to believe that only the rich are getting benefits for this stuff. And it's not. The average person is too. Anybody that's invested in that company, anybody that owns shares of that company, if it's going into paying the shareholders, they're getting a benefit from it too. So it's not just the fat cat rich folks. But again, like I said, I don't care where they spend their money. But the people who buy products from them can drive what they do. The employees that they hire can drive what they spend that money on. And to me, that's what it's supposed to be. The government shouldn't have a say-so, and the government shouldn't matter. The government's regulations will either help or hinder a business in general. And if you're hindering the business, you're creating a downturn in the economy. If you're helping that business, you're going to create an upturn in the economy. That's all that should matter to the government, is the regulations that you impose or reduce. And how's it going to affect the environment, obviously, but how's it going to affect the economy and jobs, job creation. But as a private company, the government has no business coming in and telling me how to run my company and what to spend my money on.